the Houthis have continued to launch drones, missiles, and etc. at commercial shipping and US Navy and allied vessels in the Red Sea region. And in the weeks since I wrote my post, the International Energy Agency actually has forecasted that oil demand is going to go up, in part because of the Red Sea shipping issues. Which means these attacks have continued to have an economic impact, one that doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. So here's my post from a few weeks ago, and it's a little bit of history. The advent of anti-ship missiles, which began a profound change in naval operations, started with Soviet-made Egyptian missile boats successfully taking down an Israeli destroyer, the INS Eilat, after the Six-Day War in 1967. Two missile boats, which are small warships designed for operating close to shore, launched several missiles over the course of an engagement against this former UK destroyer from inside of a harbor. The Eilat attempted to maneuver and use 40mm Bofors guns to defend against this attack, but the Soviet-made missiles struck it. The first two hits took out the engine compartment and part of the superstructure, before a later salvo finished off the stricken ship. Hitting a ship at sea is no small task. Constant movement, changing conditions, they make anti-ship interdiction by air most notably difficult. The German military developed glide bombs to address this problem to some success in the Second World War. And the US also followed suit with the ASM N2 BAT, which unlike the radio-controlled German glide bomb, had an early radar guidance system. Anti-ship missiles continued to develop and became a bit of a boogeyman to planners who were worried about the vulnerabilities of large surface warships against a swarm of high-tech guided missiles. Sound familiar? The US and others invested heavily in close-in weapon systems, long-range anti-air tech, and passive defenses using electronic countermeasures and other systems and training to keep pace with this looming missile proliferation. Today we are seeing a new shift in this dynamic. One large factor is that looming proliferation has come to pass. It's easier than ever for a nation-state or non-state actor to acquire capable weapons. In decades past, there were legitimate concerns of Chinese Silkworm anti-ship missiles or French Exocet missiles being used against US warships, and in the case of the UK, that fear was realized as the Argentine military managed to sink a destroyer and a transport ship during the Falklands conflict and damage several other vessels. The Houthi rebels have Iran to thank for their rapidly expanding arsenal for the most part, but the Houthis still have to employ these weapons properly to make them count. So far, the MV Rubimar is the only major casualty of numerous ASBM launches during this post-October 7th campaign. The Rubimar was right in the middle of transiting the strait, putting the ship a mere 35 nautical miles off the coast of Yemen when these two ASBMs were launched against it. Of course, the Rubimar is a civilian vessel. It doesn't even have the 40mm guns that the Israeli destroyer had to employ against the missile attack during its final engagement. But intercepting ballistic missiles makes that difficulty go up a whole different notch. Certain US standard missiles are geared for just that, and had been designed to take on the ASBM threat, but it only takes one ASBM getting through the defensive umbrella to cripple a warship. The Houthis have attempted to saturate US and allied defenses with a combined arms approach using uncrewed surface and underwater vehicles, drones, traditional anti-ship missiles, and ASBMs, but outside of a Sol Leaker, which is a weapon that made it past the missile engagement area, the Houthis have mostly given the US Navy and allies training on how to take on the real threat, which could potentially be a heavily armed Chinese rocket force that makes the Houthis look like a sideshow. In any real-world scenario in the Baltics or Indo-Pacific, it will likely be a concerted effort from a variety of systems to try and overwhelm US air defenses. And Russia has found out the hard way in the Black Sea that expensive warships employed poorly can become scrap metal in a matter of minutes. The US has also put a lot of thought, time, and effort into sensors to detect launches such as ballistic missiles. Blinding these sensors, perhaps with a nuclear weapon detonation in orbit, could be a way to negate this advantage by the US military. But that's for another post. The damage to the MV Rubimar, which has since sunk, is one more real-world example that anti-ship ballistic missiles are a useful weapon against targets at sea.